Morning. Dear friends, participants, we have gathered here because there is a war in Europe. A war started by Vladimir Putin because he wants to destroy another country's rights for freedom and independence. He wants to scare the people of Ukraine so they stop fighting. He wants to scare the people of Sweden so we won't join NATO. And he wants to scare people of Europe so we won't support Ukraine. We have gathered here today to say that Putin will never stop us. Today we will listen to a friend from Ukraine, Kira Rudik, party leader for Goliath, a liberal party in Ukraine. I want to express my gratitude to you, Kira, for joining us today. You have become an important voice in the world for the Ukrainian struggle. We are extremely grateful that you have taken the time to share with us what's happening today. Your actions are fundamental for defending Ukraine, and your words are important for spreading message in Sweden. Thank you to all of you here at the Swedish Parliament joining us today, and all of you joining us online. A special thanks to my colleague, Gulan Avci, Member of Parliament and spokesperson for gender equality, for taking this initiative. The attack on Ukraine should not come as a surprise. For 20 years now, Putin has refused to accept the breakup of the Soviet Union. The evidence has come time and time again. The invasion of Georgia in 2008, the occupation of Crimea and Donbas region in 2014. Then on February 24th, the invasion of the entire Ukraine. Dear friends, today it is Ukraine, but he won't stop there. If Putin succeeds there, then none of us in Europe will be safe. Kira, we're here to listen to you today, but before we do, I want you to know that you're not alone. Liberals all over Europe stand with you. Swedes, among other European people, stands with you. We're fighting for tougher sanctions against Russia. We want Putin to be tried for war crimes and crimes against humanity. We support the sending of weapons to Ukraine, and we would like to see a clear roadmap for Ukraine to become member of the EU. Once again, let me express my gratitude to you, Kira, and your colleagues. I hope you and your family will be safe coming days, weeks, and months. We know that words won't stop tanks from Russia, but words can send a message of what we're fighting for. Welcome and Slava Ukraina. With these words, I would like to give the floor to Lisa Bjurval, journalist, author, and the moderator of this session. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Ms. Nyamko Sabuni, and welcome, Kira. Let's get straight to your current situation. It has been a 36-hour curfew since Tuesday, and it has just been finalized right now. What is the situation like in Kiev? How has the night been for you?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure and honor to be speaking to you today. I am in Kyiv, Ukraine right now, and today is the 22nd day of war that Russia started on Ukraine. We are just over the 35-hour curfew, and the answer to the question, well, we are alive and well, and this what makes me believe that we will keep running, and Russia was not able to take Kyiv. Russian forces tried to have fights at the outskirts of the Kiev, but they were not able to move forward. Giving you the overall on the situation, there are three directions on where they planned to attack. The first is the land attack, and they were stopped at the outskirts of the city. And our brave army was doing very, very good job, and they're doing it right now. The second attempt was to close the entrances and exits to the city and create like a siege. But we are ready to that as well. The entrances and exits are additionally protected. Plus, we have been working for the last 22 days to make sure that we have enough of supplies, food, and water, and we'll be able to provide it for every citizen of Kiev. And the third attempt is obviously from the air. And this is where we do not have so much strength. And this is something where you cannot build it ourselves. There's something that you cannot build and protect yourself as a citizen. And this is the most frustrating. This is why we have been continuously asking for a no-fly zone from the NATO countries, because we are fighting on the land very successfully, but there is nothing that we can do in the air. And you as a citizen, you can do a lot of things. You can help refugees, you can help your fellows, you can arm yourself, you can train, you can have enough supplies to get ready for everything. You can try to regain the control, which is so important at the times of war, to regain a control of all the mess, all the chaos is going on, but there is nothing that you can do with the missiles that are going onto your home. And with all the money in the world right now that we have been receiving, we still cannot build a system to protect ourselves from the air. And this is the tragedy that we do need to back for it. We cannot build it ourselves. We cannot buy it. We need to ask for it. So there are other countries who have these systems in place, so they would provide them to us, or that they will provide their jets so we can fly them and we can fight Russians in the air. During the last night, 2 buildings in Kiev were bombarded. We don't know how many people are killed just yet, but it's a tragic math that every single morning you are waking up and you are looking at the internet to see how many of your citizens were killed during this night. And this is unbelievable and still is not going into my mind. It is something that I still cannot accept. It is still is not happening to me. It is something that we are all just trying to hope that it will end up soon. And then it will all will be thinking about it as a very complicated and tragic, but still a period of our life. As our life will not be like that, like for a while. At the very beginning of war, all the intelligence of the world, like all of them, were telling me, Kira, 24 to 48 hours, if Putin attacks, this is how we think you will, for how long you will stand. After that, we think you will fail, he will take part of your country, and then we will discuss how to help you. Today is day 22. We are still standing. We did not give up any single major city. Today, we are still fighting. We are fighting everywhere. Why it happened? Because Putin was really hoping that he will be taking us easily. He was hoping that he will be only fighting with the Ukrainian army, which turned out to be such a big mistake, because every single Ukrainian citizen, the one who was speaking Russian, the one who was speaking Ukrainian, the one who was speaking Hungarian, whatever, they all stood up and said, you cannot break us. You cannot take our motherland. You cannot take our country. And this is why we are fighting at every single inch of Ukrainian land. At some point, Putin changed tactics. So right now, he's just bombarding peaceful cities. He is sieging the cities that he can surround. And he is starving out and in people of Ukraine. This is what's happening in the peaceful city of Mariupol in the east. There's 400,000 people right now. And it is very tragic what is happening there, because It shows you on a small scale what will happen to the whole country if Putin will take it. And I can tell you what's happening there. So in 14 days, people do not have access to the fresh food, water, electricity. People are hiding in the shelters and the constant bombarding of the Russian troops. And Russians are not letting them out. So I want you to paint this picture for you. You imagine that you are melting snow to give the water to your children. And that there is like no way out. There is like everybody's helping each other, but you know that the only way is to try to get out. And then at some point you hear that there will be buses taking people out, that there is some agreement that Putin and his forces said, okay, we will let some women and children out. And early in the morning when the sky is like super gray, like 6 a.m., you're trying to get out. You imagine women and the small children hiding behind their backs, and they're getting into those buses, and everybody being very quiet. And you imagine children holding off to their small backpacks, because you know what is so important right now with refugees and their children right now in Ukraine. We are telling, like, make sure that your child is having his document with them, because it's so important, because nobody knows, like, at which point mommy will have to hand over the child to somebody else, and just hope and have fingers crossed that they will get somewhere alive. So all the children in Ukraine know right now to hold on to their backpacks where the documents are, because they know this, they don't understand why, but they know this is so damn important to hold on to this, to hold on. And then at the refugees camps, it's very hard for them to give it up. So you imagine with mommies, with those children, they're getting onto the buses and they are driving and they're being very, very quiet and super scared, with like this small chunk of hope, small chunk that they will be able to get to safety. And then at the time when they're getting out of the city, the Russians start firing and the buses come back. And this happens every single day, because every single day we are getting the confirmation from Russia that they will let the buses out. And every single day, people with this despair, they're getting on and they're just hoping that today will be the day, and they're not let out. So yesterday, we were able to get 200 cars out, not because Russians let us, but because Ukrainian army was able to take this lifeline, to take the small road and get the people out. You cannot imagine like what we all felt like. And you know what happened right after that? Russians hit their missile to the refugee center inside the city, where there were 1,000 men and women and children.
This was the big theater that was hit, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
They were so annoyed that we took the people out. They said they're already ours. We will be starving them to death.
But you had written children in big letters outside, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They were like, they could not have been a mistake. There was like a written children near the theater. So you imagine that people understood that it's unsafe to keep all the children together, because they knew it's like super scary. So they wrote, it's children, hoping that the person who will be throwing a bomb will think, will feel, will reconsider. But they did not. We still don't know how many people died there. We're still calculating our losses. But I want to show you this as an example that there could not be an agreement with Russia. There is no way, because if they cannot have this agreement done, even if at this like a fairly small piece, fairly small like thing, like please let our people go, then like how could we even imagine that there could be peace? How could we imagine that they will take their troops from our land? In the history of Russia, there has not been a situation where they put their troops somewhere in some country and then took them back. Because this is how they act. This is what Putin said. He was very blunt about this, that he will take Ukraine, then he will take Poland, that he will take Lithuania. This is his plan. He said, I am rebuilding Russian empire, or whatever he is doing. So I want the world to realize, to understand, for everybody who has joined NATO, who is a NATO country, non-NATO country, this is not the fight between Russia and Ukraine. It has never been. This is right now is is a larger issue, larger conflict, larger war. And the global war has already begun because it's a question of world security. It's a question of, can countries get into another country's territory and try to act on all the war crimes that you can imagine? Because he committed right now every single war crime that was there possible there. And or is it not okay? And if it is not okay, then who and which countries and which forces and which means are to oppose this? Because what we see right now is we get really tons of support. We get financial aid, we get taking care of our refugees, we are getting additional supplies and weaponry, and we are extremely grateful for that. And we know that we have to fight for our country, and we are not asking other people to fight for our country. Though as of right now, there is at least 20,000 people from all over the world who came in as volunteers to fight. And we are super grateful for that. So, but the question is, like, what is the plan? I know my plan. My plan since day one was to arm myself, to create the resistance team, and to make sure that we fight and we protect our family, our home, our city, and our country. I know my country's plan. Our plan is to stand up and to show him he cannot break us, and to fight till the last person standing. This is a very simple plan. It's very easy to hold to it. But I don't understand what is NATO's plan. I don't understand what is the whole world's plan. Because we are being very honest. We cannot protect the nuclear plants, and Putin has been attacking them constantly. We cannot protect them, and he's creating those risks of a nuclear catastrophe. We cannot stop all the refugees. There are 3 million refugees right now to Europe, and there will be more. And we are grateful for that, but we are also understand that it is tremendous amount of people, and there will be more. Like, we don't understand like what is the plan on the resolution. We will not be making peace with Putin. We know for a very long time that it is impossible. So then, like, what are the hopes? What is the plan? What is like the concept? And you know, from every single leader that I have been talking to, they don't know the plan. They hope that Putin will die. Well, I can tell you, my country has lived in this hope for 8 years while they were taking our eastern territories. And it didn't happen. Well, they hope that Russia will collapse. This is my hope as well, but you cannot build your strategy based on hope. So the question here is on how to build a new security system in the world that will be actually capable. I am sorry, but I'm extremely upset and I feel rage when the war crimes are happening in my country, when people are dying every single day, and everything that United Nations is sending them the angry email to Russia. This is just something that is not helping. And I want to finish with hope. So every single night when I'm off on my informational duty, I'm working on the legislation for the future, for the bridges that we will be rebuilding, for the compensation for the people whose cars were taken right now during the war, for the build-up that we will have once everything is over. And you know why I started doing it? It's a David and Goliath story. So when the war started, everybody was saying, Ukraine versus Russia, it's a David versus Goliath. And it's actually a pleasant comparison, because, we know that we are smaller. Russia has the third largest army in the world. And we know that we are standing up and we have all the chances to win. And it's a good and motivating story. But, so I had time to read how it's written in the Bible. And it turned out that this piece about the fight and how David became famous, just a small, tiny piece of this whole story. Because after he won the fight, he became a king, and he was building an Israeli state. he was making tons of mistakes. And you know how it is in the Bible, like here he made a mistake and there this was done wrong, etc., etc. But all in all, there was like a long story after that, long story of building up. And this is what I'm holding up to that at some time, we will be rebuilding our country. And right now we are fighting to be the ones who will be rebuilding it. And I'm thanking for all your support, from all the countries in the world, and particularly to Sweden, for sending us forces, for supporting us with the weapons, for supporting us with public and political appearances. We are very grateful because it's so easier to fight when you know that you are not alone. And with that, I salute to you, people of Sweden. I salute to you, my dear friends and partners in liberal parties. And I'm ready to answer all the questions. Thank you, and glory to Ukraine.
Thank you so much. Let's have an applause for that. Thank you. Thank you so much for this. I will start with one question myself, and then I will give the mic to the floor. A lot of international analysts and commentators are saying just what you were saying now, that it would be a dangerous concession going into a peace deal with Russia at this point, showing that it is possible to take another country's territory and giving these concessions, and it would just strengthen him in his further global ambitions, imperialist ambitions, if you will. Now, I understand that this is your point as well, that it's at this point it is impossible to do a peace deal or negotiations with Putin's Russia.
Correct. So I am personally, and as a leader of the party, I'm against any conclusion that we can get with Russia, any peace deal that we can get with Russia. First of all, because every peace deal should include the guarantees of security. And there are two sides to it. The first is, I don't see who can give us the guarantees of the security. Like, is it going to be NATO countries? Then I have a question, why are you not fighting for us right now? If you're ready to fight, if Putin will break his word, right? Like, who should that be? And this brings us to the next level of the question, is what should the new security system look like? I want to point one important matter which bothers me during those late nights. So in 1994, Ukraine was possessing one of the largest, actually third largest nuclear arsenal in the world. And we gave it up, and it is giving up was called Budapest Memorandum. So it was United States, Ukraine, Russia, and United Kingdom, 4 countries who shook hands. And we agreed to give up the nuclear arsenal for the peace in the whole world, etc. And we will receive the security guarantees. These security guarantees are non-executable right now. And what is happening, and what I see inside the country, and what I see with my many other MPs from the European countries, from the other countries of the world, who are saying, what we are seeing right now in the world, what's happening in Ukraine, makes us discuss the possibility of resuming the nuclear program in our country. So we are getting right now to the world where countries do not believe in this global security and start thinking how to protect themselves. And I don't want to live in the world where every single country, large and small, with different political reasons, has the nuclear weapon, because we all know that we were going directly from this. But I know that in the next Ukrainian parliament, these things will be discussed as well, because it's so painful what happened to my country. And this is why so many people feel betrayed, that right now we could have been in a very different situation if we had the nuclear arsenal yet. So this is why the peaceful negotiations cannot take place until first there is a resolution to this main point, like who is protecting the world right now? Is the United States taking the leadership, and like how are they taking this leadership, or what is happening?
Thank you very much. Now, I think because of the technique here, I think the easiest thing is probably if people just raise their hand and give me the question, I will take it to her instead of me running around, or what do you say? Or I can go around, yeah. Who would like to go first? Oh, Goliath, do you have a question? No? Yeah. What's the easiest thing to do here? Should you say it in Swedish? And I can... So we have a question here from a Swedish parliamentarian. We are all, extremely moved by your speech, and what we're wondering is, what is the next step that Sweden can take? As you mentioned, we have sent 5,000 AT4s. We have sent these anti-tank weapons, shields, and meal portions, rations, and so on. What is the next step this parliamentarian would like to know that we can help you?
Thank you so much for this question. So the main goal is to make Russia new North Korea. So the next step is to make sure that you impose all the possible sanctions onto Russian officials and to Russian companies. The second is to make sure that the businesses that are registered in Sweden don't do business with Russia. So Russia needs to stop having money to continue the war. So encourage all the businesses to remove their business from Russia, to remove their headquarters from there, to impose all the sanctions on Russian gas and oil, and probably the Russian ships getting onto the Swedish ports. So all the things that can, I would keep the two things in the mind. The first is making Russia new North Korea. The second is strengthening up Ukraine and going into these directions. What is strengthening up Ukraine is obviously the supplies, taking refugees, additional financial support, additional military support. We are grateful for every single piece of this. And second is against Russia, additional sanctions, banning their ships, the oil and gas, stopping doing business with them, personal sanctions against Putin and his surroundings. So these are the two directions that we are asking every country to go in.
Very good answer. Thank you very much. Do we have another question? Yes, here's one. Do you want to come up here? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yesterday, President Biden made an announcement that he will send additional weapons and financial support. Do you see this as a change in US policy, as a major step, or is it just additional support? What is your view?
So it is additional support. The change in the policy would be getting into the war or providing us with the jets. So we were very close to getting the jets when the United States said, okay, well, Poland will give you the jets and we will compensate them. We will fill them in. But this didn't happen. And though the support that we are getting, it is significant, it is honestly overwhelming, like with the finance and the weaponry that we are getting. But it is not, it's only the weaponry that will allow us to continue fighting. This is not something that we will be able to use to push them back. So because to push them back, we would still need the S-300s, like the ability to shoot their missiles, and we will still need the jets. So while we are still getting the oil for the fire, it's great. So we will keep standing. It will depend on us, but we will still be not protected from the Russian Air Force attacks.
Thank you very much. Now, do we have another question? So yes. Do you want me to? Yep. So we're moving away from the screen, but I think you can still hear us.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very, very much for your contribution and for everything that you are doing on the ground in Ukraine. We heard yesterday that the three premier ministers from Poland and Slovenia and from Czech Republic, I believe, actually traveled to Kiev and to sat down with President Zelensky in order sort of a solidarity trip. We asked our prime minister if Sweden would be next to travel to Ukraine. We did not receive a clear answer, but how do you see these trips? Are they valuable as solidarity, or are they just symbols?
Both symbols and signs of solidarity. It's critically important to show that even after 22 days, we are not forgotten. Because you know what frightens me the most right now, that at some point people get tired of war. People of the world get tired of hearing what's going on. And politicians of the world saying, yeah, there has been not too many major news there, so they are fighting, go guys, and that's it. And this is why we do need to keep their ongoing support. Well, we will be super grateful if we will get the same support from Sweden, same sign of solidarity. And it will be again a symbol for Ukrainian people that no matter what, we have friends who will not let us at this dangerous situation. Because you know, like what's the most hurtful right now in this like geopolitical situation, that we do understand that we are pleading for this for the no-fly zone, and the fact that we did not receive it for many reasons, and the fact that the NATO countries said no, we decided that we will just hold off. It created so many questions. It made it so upsetting. Well, first of all, because we did have the guarantees from the Budapest Memorandum of how executable and not executable they were. And second, that we all know that Putin is a tyrant, that he is like a new Hitler, etc. And it is upsetting. So we need to get as many friends of Ukraine in here as possible to show that at all we are not alone.
Thank you. Now we have another question. I'll do the same thing. I'll move out here.
Yeah. One question. Before the invasion in Ukraine, the cities of Donetsk and Luhansk were very pro-Russian. And how is the opinion right now? Because many of them thought that the dictator Putin was coming to save them. What is your opinion now, you think, about how people look at Putin today?
So the cities Donetsk and Luhansk, they were occupied at the previous chunk of war that was ongoing. But there was indeed like all the eastern part who thought that like Russians not so bad. And the tragedy is that these people were attacked by Russians at first. And I think right now there is nobody who actually thinks that Russia could bring anything but war or destruction or pain. And this created this surprise for Russian soldiers, because I think inside Russia, they were also thinking that so many Ukrainians are supporting them. So their blitzkrieg failed because they came in without the fuel, without warm clothes, without even food supplies. They were coming in and thinking that they will be taken as liberators. And I can quote it to you. They were saying, we were told that we are coming as liberators, we will be giving food, warm clothes, and Ukrainian women will be throwing themselves at us. And I was just like, have you seen yourself? But okay. But the issue is that these regions that were supporting Russia, they were damaged the most. And yesterday we had, the day before, we had a parliamentary sitting. We have one pro-Russian party, which was like the third largest party in the parliament. pro-Russian, who were like constantly saying, no, Russians are good, we should be with Russians. And all their constituencies were there. Some of them destroyed to the ground. And you cannot imagine those people who were so cocky before the war. And right now they're saying, like, my land is right now with no people at all, because it's just taken to the ground, it's burned, and there is just death there. I have, like, my constituency is the grave right now. And this is what I hope will be for my nation, like a vaccine for a very long time against tyranny and against anything Russian.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions? Yep.
Hi, first I want to thank you very much for participating here in this meeting. And I have a question. You say that you don't see that peace negotiation will be the end of this war. But should I see this as you see that there will be a war until the end, until we have a military victory from some part? If you don't want peace negotiation, how should we interpret that? And I also want to, I mean, it's now been 3 weeks and 3 very tough, really tough weeks for everyone in Ukraine. And how is the persistence against the war, and how are your soldiers taking this? Are they still wanting to fight, or is there a fatigue, or, you know, how is that compared to the Russians? Thank you.
Thank you for these questions. So we don't see their way in peace negotiations because we just don't believe they cannot be executed. Of course, like, I can imagine that in surreal world, if Russia took all their forces out and compensate and like promise to never go back again, etc., it could be peace, but it's impossible. Like, they are not taking their troops out, I can tell you that. So what's the resolve of their war? And this is what I'm asking the NATO countries. Like, what do you think the resolve of the war? They say, they think that Putin will die, Russia will collapse, and then we will be able to finish the war. So what we see it, we will be fighting. We hope that at some point we will get the jets so we can fight them in the air and then start pushing them back. We are actually ready now to start pushing them back. And with the support that we are getting, we believe that we will be able to do that, especially if they will not be bombarding our cities, that will be able to protect our cities from that. We do hope, obviously, for instability inside Russia. And this is why we know that with our lives and with our blood, we are buying time for sanctions to act. Because let's make it clear, it's only been 3 weeks for Russia being under sanctions. I cannot be telling you how upset I was that everybody was just waiting for Russia to attack before imposing sanctions, though Putin was very clear for 4 months that he is going to do this. So again, 2 directions of the plan right now. First is destabilizations of Russia. I do not believe in Putin's death, but hope that they will be out of money to continue war, to continue bringing more forces. Because with the forces that we have right now, if there will be no additional forces, I think we will manage. We will manage to fight them and fight them back. Second is that there will be destabilizations inside, so Russia will collapse as Soviet Union. And then nobody will be caring about the war. So this is the first one. The second one is the hope that we will get additional weapons so we can fight him, so we will get stronger. And we will be fighting them and we will push them back. And we are very sure that we will be able to do it. And we don't have any other choice, honestly, because we cannot give our territories. And, important point is right now, almost half of the population that stayed in Ukraine is armed. And so there is, so even like if you imagine that the president would want to cut a deal like for some reason, which I don't believe he would, but he may want to. He will not be able to execute on it because there will be no peace from our side, because too many people are killed right now, too many people, homes destroyed, too many people who say, no, like we are not giving up our territories and we are not retreating and we are not saying, okay, you can go home. So, and as of the morale is still very high, partially because you can hear every single day of the destructions that are happening in the East. And we don't really want this to happen here. And people are going there to fight Russians, and people are helping to defend Kiev because we know this, like this is the goal. People are just like saying, we are not giving it up. So I don't think that the fatigue will come anytime soon. However, I do understand that at some point, all the people who fled to the western parts of the country, that they will realize that they will need like money and the economy needs to be running. And what bothers me right now as a politician, as a member of parliament, as a person, is that I don't think people realize it yet. Though according to my understanding, it should already have happened. And this means that the drop in overall economical situation will be even worse. So because we are hitting at the point where like nobody's working, nobody's receiving payment, etc. And we need to get back to normal. And I don't think that people realize it just yet. So we are talking with our people on the ground and trying to make them talk to businesses, talk to the local and saying, continue working. And they're saying, we cannot because all our people are volunteering right now. And I have to say, how the word, give up the volunteering, go back to work. And this sounds crazy right now at the time of war, and people don't like hearing it. But we know, we understand what will happen next, right? So this is why you don't need to give up volunteering. You need to get the wheels running. And so this one is a complicated one.
Thank you very much. We have one more question, and then I think this will be almost the final one. Yes.
Thank you very much, and thank you for a strong speech and your delivery in a difficult time. Can you say something about the situation of the refugees inside Ukraine? We do what we can to help the people of Ukraine who come to Sweden in the very best way. But what's the situation inside Ukraine with people fleeing inside Ukraine?
Thank you. So right now we calculate that it has been 5 million people who fled from the east to the west. And the people were helping out each other, and we were able to accommodate and help with the logistics and with the traffic. And you can imagine all the down to the ground things, not even motivational or emotional things, just making sure that people get from the part A to part B. And right now they are staying there. After there were hits of Russian missiles of the very western airports, people started fleeing again, somewhere where it's safe. They got scared. Inside the country, we are doing okay in terms of food supplies and humanitarian support, because we do really get a lot of it. Honestly, we are getting it from the whole Europe, from all the friendly countries. So right now, it seems that for the refugees inside the countries, we have enough. At war, it's never enough. We know that, but it's still it's still inside the country, and things are okay. So we don't have any crazy catastrophes with the refugee camps, or with people are not having places to stay in. Ukrainians were able to open their homes and make it okay. So even right now on the borders, we have much easier ways to get out and get in. So things, going on the wheels. What I'm again threatened of is that once Russians continue bombarding the western parts, more people will flee. And again, they are scared. This is emotional move. And people do not realize what to do next. And why are they fleeing and where are they fleeing? They are just panicking and want to save their children. And what bothers me again is what is next? At some point, they will start asking what's next? What should I do? Where should I live? I have no home. Is it where I'm here right now? Am I going to stay here? Or what I'm going to do? And this is something that we as a parliament, we're already thinking about it. But again, there is no good answer to that because we don't know if Russians will be attacking Lviv and other Western cities just for the sake that there are so many people in there right now.
Thank you very much. Now we have a few minutes for closing remark by the first vice party chairman. And we can welcome you up here. So, Mr. Johan Persson, welcome.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being with us today during these terrible circumstances. You are still standing, as you said in your speech. Obviously you are, and we are in Sweden. The war in Ukraine the whole world. This is really the fight between freedom and dictatorship. I really understand your fear of some kind of a so-called peace deal after a terrible war, and even worse, peace deal is not what we need. And we hope that through the support you can get, we argue from the Liberal Party in Sweden that we should support you even more with the equipment, etc., to fight back the Russians, is that the peace deal should be that the Russians should go home. They should go to The Hague, where they should be prosecuted. And after that, we should discuss and we should consider if we should, at some point, look at Russia as no longer being a no-go zone. Unfortunately, there will be a while until we get there, but I think we have seen a new world order rise quite quickly, and you are in the front line. And we are so sad to see this. The members in Parliament at this meeting now will run off to our standing committees, where we will discuss our daily issues, as we always do in the Swedish Parliament. We still do it in a free country, but our hearts stay with you right now. But we will carry on our duties, and we do what we can do from this Parliament, and if I can speak for the Liberal Party, to support you even more and all the way until you bring back or you push back the Russian aggression, and we can take the Russian leadership to The Hague. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johan Persson, and thank you very much for joining us today, Kira. As Mr. Persson said, we are all very moved and so impressed by your courage and bravery. And as a Liberal Party leader, you are truly standing on the front lines. And it's very important that you also know that as a representative for Swedish journalists, we are also very much behind you, because it's also, of course, a struggle for the free speech, such an important component. And as we heard in the start here, words are not enough in a war, as party leader Nyamko Sabuni said here from the Swedish Liberals. but they can offer some kind of moral support. And I know that lots of journalist colleagues here in Sweden have been watching this through YouTube, and they will be writing about you. They will be going to Ukraine and cover what's going on there, so that Putin and Russia's narrative will not be the major one. We will continue listening to your voices. So let's all have a big applause for Ms. Kira Rudik for joining us. Thank you, and we will keep in touch, and we will now end the seminar. Thank you very much.
And glory to Ukraine.
Thank you. Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.